In this video, you learn how to use Authgear to add user authentication to your React Native application. Authgear makes it easy to add user authentication to any application. To get started, the first thing you need to do is to visit authgear.com on your web browser. Once the page loads, click on Login. From the login page, you can either log in or sign up a new account. I'll be logging into an existing account. I'll click Not Now to continue. Once I'm logged in, I'll be brought to the projects page. From this page, I can either select an existing project or create a new one. For the sake of this demo, I'll be selecting an existing project. Now this is my project opened in Authgear Portal. Here I can see all the features and settings available for my project. For this demo, we're going to be creating an Authgear client application. It is this client application we'll use to connect Authgear to our React Native application. To create a client application, click on the applications link here. This will bring you to a screen where you either select an existing client application or create a new one. Because I do not have any existing Authgear client application, we'll be creating a new one. First, enter the name of your application. I'll enter my React Native app. Then set the application type to native app. This is because we are going to be connecting this Authgear project to a native mobile app. Click Save to continue. The next screen is this page that shows you a list of tutorials. Click Next to continue. Now, this is the project's configuration page. On this page, you can see details like the client ID, the endpoint, and the authorized redirect URIs for your Authgear client application. We will be using these details later in our React Native project to connect to Authgear. Now let's go to our React Native application in VS Code. So here we are in VS Code, and I've already prepared the simple React Native application for the sake of this demo. So the app shows a view that displays some text and a login button. Let's run this app on our device to see what it looks like. You can press A to run on Android. Now our app should be running on the device, so let's check it out. So this is our app that shows a simple text demo and the login button. Once we are done integrating Authgear in this app, when users click on the login button, it should take them to a login screen. The first thing we need to do in our React Native project is to install the Authgear React Native SDK. You can do that using this npm command. Run this command to install Authgear SDK. Now the SDK is installed. Next, we need to import the Authgear SDK in our React Native project. Use this code to do that. You should paste the code that imports the Authgear SDK here. Next, we are going to be replacing this alert line with the code that initiates the Authgear SDK. In order to save time, I already prepared the code that initiates the Authgear SDK here. So you just need to copy it and paste it here. The next thing we need to do is to add the client ID and endpoint from our Authgear client application in our React Native project. So let's go back to Authgear Portal to get those details. In Authgear Portal, click on this copy icon here to copy the client ID. Return to VS Code and paste. Repeat the same step, but this time copy the endpoint. The next thing we'll be talking about is the authorized redirect URI. That is the value here. To set up the authorized redirect URI for your React Native project, open the Android folder, go to App, SRC, then select Android manifest.xml. In the Android manifest.xml file, you need to add the following activity tag. The most interesting part of this activity tag is this data tag here. So the data tag has three parts: the schema, the host, and the path prefix. So for the schema, we've defined it to be com.reactNativeAuth for this example. We've set our host to be host and path prefix as /path. A combination of the schema, the host, and the path makes up the redirect URI for a React Native application. Now we need to add this value in Authgear portal. So copy it and return to Authgear portal. In Authgear portal, in your Authgear client applications configuration page, go to the URI section, click on the add URI button, then paste the value we just copied from the React Native project here. Click save once you're done. Now let's return to VS Code. Before we continue, let's take a closer look at what is happening here in this code. First, we configure Authgear, then we call the authenticate method. Once the user is authenticated, using the then statement, read the user info object from the Authgear SDK. This user info object contains details about the user, and in our alert, we are using the email property from the user info object to display the user's email address. So when you run this app, we should see a message like login successful, welcome, and the user's email address displayed in the alert. So at this point, let's save our work and try to run the application. Again, press A to run on an Android device. At this point, our app should be running on the device, so let's check it out. So this is our app running. Let's click login again. And this time, because we've configured Authgear, it opens a login screen. On this screen, you can either log in or sign up a user account. Let's try signing up a new user account. Click continue. Now we'll be asked to set a new password for the user. So let's do that. Click continue to proceed. And with that, we successfully signed up a new user account and we were logged into the user account. And just like I mentioned earlier, you can see the alert displaying login successful, welcome, and the user's email address. In addition to the user info object, Authgear returns an access token that your app can use to access other protected resources. To learn more about all the features and login methods Authgear offers for your React Native application, I recommend you check out the official documentation.